Before the 7th century AD, Indian history had witnessed an empire, a big empire between the 4th and the, let us say, end of the 6th century AD under the Guptas. From 7th century onward, new polities, new political centers would emerge over the length and breadth of the subcontinent. It is not just the growth of regional polities that make this period so important. Both in the domain of script and language, forms of writing and language, there will be an increasing tendency at regionalization. Similarly, literature will again assume a distinct regional character. Other important and I would say defining feature would be a new kind of ideology, dominantly feudal ideology. By this period, the money economy of the earlier period had completely collapsed. Agriculture became the mainstay of economy, and the agricultural surplus generated on a grand scale would give rise to a leisurely community who would emerge as patron of art and culture. And it is this community which will promote the idea of bhakti. This ideology will reinforce the new feudal social order where the tie of loyalty between the local potentates, the subject people and the intermediaries will be very, very important. And the concept of bhakti will reinforce not only the feudal society, it will reinforce much of the art and architecture that would emerge during this period. It is in this period that both Brahminical Hinduism and Mahayana Buddhism will evolve a more complex character from the placid world of iconography of the Gupta period. We will now enter into a phase where the world is the iconographic world will be dominated by multiple forms of Shiva, multiple forms of Vishnu, multiple forms of Devi. Similarly, in Mahayana Buddhism, the idea of Buddha and Bodhisattvas will now develop into large number of tantric deities, Tara and our followers. Similarly, in Jainism, large number of Shasana Devi and attendant Jakha of the Jaina Tirthankaras will be created. In other words, the religious scenario will become very complex, and this complexity, this elaboration from an earlier, more simple structure will be a defining feature of the culture and more particularly of art and architecture of the period between 650 and 1200. It is in 7th century AD a very significant development took place in Mahabalipuram in the state of Tamil Nadu.
Sir, why is Mahabalipuram so important?
Mahabalipuram is very important because it is here at Mahabalipuram that the artists and the patrons could come out of century-old prejudice of using stone as a material for carving religious images. It is in the 7th century AD, largely because of the grand vision of an individual, Mahendra Varman, the great Pallava king, that a new experiment began on the natural outcrops facing the sea, Bay of Bengal at Mahabalipuram. The Mahabalipuram experiment was soon replicated on the Sahyadri mountains, at Ellora, close to Aurangabad, and at Aurangabad itself, or at Elephanta, close to Mumbai. Cave temples dedicated to the Brahminical cults, dedicated to Buddhism, dedicated to Jainism were fabricated, and the entire wall surface were richly carved with narratives as well as religious images. Here the artist not only experimented with new kind of challenges, they explored the possibility of using diagonals to its fullest possible extreme. The balanced, poised world of the Gupta art had been changed, and a world of art was created which was full of activity, which was full of dynamism. And this really marks the earlier phase of the period with which we are concerned.